Today we're making my Alabama white chicken bacon pizza with a sourdough crust. It is so delicious, so easy to make. This is one of my husband's favorite recipes on the blog. It's perfect for the 4th of July. It's perfect for any day of the year, actually. It's just so delicious. Let's go make it. There is a restaurant down in Chattanooga, Tennessee that has the best pizza, I think, in the entire country. My husband and I have traveled to all the 48 lower states of the US, and that is our by far favorite pizza. It's a bacon barbecue chicken pizza. This is my take on that, using an Alabama white sauce barbecue. Instead of the red barbecue, it makes it so creamy, so delicious, and gives it another take. For this recipe, we're gonna need a few things. We're gonna need a batch of sourdough pizza crust. So I will leave my link for that down in the description below. I have a pizza crust recipe over on the blog. It's really simple and easy. If you don't have a sourdough starter but you want to make a sourdough crust, I'll leave that link down in the description below so you can make your own starter. If you want to use a different kind of pizza crust, like a yeast crust, you're more than welcome to do that as well. I will also show you how to make that crust right now. This recipe will replace your store-bought pizza dough. No longer buy any from the store. I make it all at home, and so can you. So to get started, we're going to need half of a cup of fed sourdough starter. You could use sourdough discard, but I highly recommend the fed one. It raises your dough and it makes it really fluffy and nice. Next, we'll add in 1 cup of water, 3 tablespoons of olive oil or melted butter, 1 teaspoon of salt, I like to use sea salt, and 2 teaspoons of raw honey, but you could also use a pure maple syrup if you prefer. We are then going to grab a bread whisk, or you can even use just a regular spoon, and we're gonna mix this together just until it's combined. Once it's combined, we're gonna add in 3 cups of all-purpose flour. I like to use an unbleached organic, but you can use any kind you prefer. And then we're going to stir this around just to combine it. See it kind of coming together in clumps. That's exactly what you want. And when it's about combined completely, you're gonna use your hands to finish it. So we're gonna just use our hands to clean off our spoon or whisk, and then we're gonna use our hands to kind of combine this into a blob. Once you have that combined, you're gonna turn it out onto the counter. You can lightly flour your workspace if needed. And we're going to knead this for 3 minutes on the countertop. You can also use an electric mixer with a dough hook on it. It's up to you, but you can do either one. Once you're done kneading your dough for 3 minutes, you're just gonna grab your bowl that you mixed it in. You don't have to clean it. A lot of people will tell you you do, but I never do. So you're just gonna put your dough back in there, and then you're gonna grab a lid, saran wrap, or a damp kitchen towel, so you'll just wet it, wring it out, and then use that. And then you're gonna make sure whatever you're using is not airtight. So like for a lid, I like to put it on and just clasp 2 sides of the lid. So these 2 are open, these 2 are closed, and that is exactly what you want for a bulk ferment. So if you're using saran wrap, make sure you wrap it around loosely. Now we're gonna let our dough sit on the counter and bulk ferment for 10 to 12 hours. You'll also need 1 batch of my homemade Alabama white barbecue sauce recipe. I'll leave that link down in the description below. You can just click that, it'll take you over to the blog so you can make it. I'll also show you how to make a batch of that right now. First, we'll add in 1 cup of mayo. So you can use any kind of mayo that you would like. It doesn't have any seed oils, which I really enjoy. 4 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, 2 teaspoons of honey. I like to use a raw honey for this. And then half of a teaspoon of hot sauce. I like to use Frank's hot sauce. And then half of a teaspoon of salt, half of a teaspoon of garlic powder. You'll want to have like an unsalted version. Half of a teaspoon of ground black pepper, half of a teaspoon of smoked paprika. I really recommend using smoked paprika, not regular. It gives you that extra little flavor. And finally, 1/4 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. This doesn't necessarily make it really spicy. It just gives it a little zest. You could leave that out if you want, but I highly recommend leaving it in. Now that all of our ingredients are in here, all we're gonna do is mix it up real good. You wanna make sure all of the mayonnaise is mixed in with all of the other ingredients, especially that honey. So we're just gonna mix, mix, mix. Now that we have our pizza crust made and we have our sauce made, we are going to get started with this recipe. We're gonna start by preheating our oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. If you want to use a pizza stone, place that in now so it can get preheating, or if you're using just a metal pan or a sheet pan, you do not need to preheat that, just set that to the side. So first we're gonna get started with our chicken. We're gonna slice it up and pan sear it. Let's go. To begin, we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of avocado oil, or you could use coconut oil, something with a high heat point. We're gonna add that to our skillet, and then we're gonna turn the heat to a medium heat. While our oil is heating, we're gonna grab 1 large boneless, skinless chicken breast, and we're gonna cut it into bite-sized pieces about 1/2 inch big. So that's what we have here. If you don't have a large chicken breast, you could do 2 small. And then we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of sea salt to this, as well as half of a teaspoon of ground black pepper. And then we're just gonna stir this chicken around to fully season and coat it. Once our pan is hot and the oil moves around easily, you just wanna make sure it fully coats around the sides of the pan. And then we're gonna add our chicken into the skillet and cook for 4 to 5 minutes on a medium heat. Do not move them while they are cooking. They need to stay put so they can get that golden brown sear on the bottom, so you don't wanna move them for 4 to 5 minutes. Once your chicken is cooked for 4 to 5 minutes and there's a golden brown sear on the bottom, you're gonna flip them all over and cook another 4 to 5 minutes until there's another golden brown sear on that side and they're completely cooked all the way through. Once our chicken is completely cooked, we're gonna remove it from the pan and set it aside until we're ready to put it on the pizza. We're gonna get started with our bacon. So you need half of a pound of bacon. I like to get an uncured bacon. It's just so much better without the nitrates and the nitrites. And then you're just gonna grab a sheet pan and line it with parchment paper. And then we're just gonna line our pieces of bacon on the sheet pan. Just make sure they're not touching. Next, we'll grab 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground black pepper, and then we're gonna just sprinkle it over all of our bacon. Now we're gonna pop our bacon in the 425-degree preheated oven for 12 to 14 minutes until it's crisp and completely baked all the way through. You can get started on your pizza dough. So you can use a pizza stone like we talked about earlier that's been preheated. You can use a round stainless steel pizza pan like I'm using here. Or you can use a sheet pan. I always like to cover it in parchment paper to prevent any sticking and make it easy to clean up. So whatever you're using, just set that aside for now. Next, you'll want to grab your pizza dough and lightly flour your workspace or your countertop, and then grab a rolling pin, and we're just going to turn our dough out. If it's a little sticky, just kind of coat all the sides in flour. That's what I like to do here. Now we're just gonna roll this out. You can choose whatever size you would like. So if you wanna make it a round pizza for a round pizza plate or pizza pan, you can do that. You can roll it into a square or a rectangle if you're using a sheet pan or a pizza stone. The shape is completely up to you. And also the thickness is completely up to you as well. If you would like a thin crust, roll it out to 1/4 of an inch thick. If you would like a hand tossed crust, do about 1/2 of an inch thick. I don't recommend doing anything thicker than that just because it will take much longer to bake. I am doing in between a thin crust and a hand tossed. And then we're gonna grab our pan that we're using and we're gonna transfer our dough onto it. Now, once your dough is transferred onto the pan that you're cooking it on, you have 2 options. You can leave it like this on your pan or on your sheet that you're using, or if you'd like to do a crust, just take the edges and roll them down. So the crust is optional. I'm gonna do a little baby one. Just gonna fold that in. Also, this is a trick if your dough is a little bit bigger than what you're baking it on. You can just roll it down a little and make a crust, and it looks like it fits perfectly. I always like to kind of push out the dough then. That way it spreads. And then we're gonna pop this in the oven at 425 degrees for about 10 minutes to pre-bake before we add our toppings. Now that our bacon is done cooking, you're gonna want to grab a plate and line it with either napkins or you can use paper towel. And then we're just gonna get these out of the grease. Also, once they dry off from this grease and cool down, they will crisp up a lot more. Once our bacon has cooled down, we're gonna place it on a cutting board and we're just gonna slice it into small little chunks. Now after your crust bakes for 10 minutes, it'll look just like this. So now we're gonna add on our sauce. So this is our homemade Alabama white barbecue sauce that we made earlier, and we're gonna just add as much as you want on top. I also like to use my spoon to push the crust down because it got a little bit puffy, which is completely normal in the oven. You can use as little or as much sauce as you choose. Now once your sauce is on here, we're gonna add 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. I really don't recommend sharp cheddar cheese just because it doesn't melt very well, but mild or medium works. I personally like mild, but we're just using 2 cups. And I also recommend shredding it at home. So getting a block at the grocery store and shredding it, it just works so much better and melts better. And you don't have all the additives and anti-caking agents in your cheese. We're gonna add our chicken that we cooked. Just kind of spread this out. If there's big chunks, you can tear them in half. Next, we're gonna add on our bacon that we chopped up. Also spread that out as much as you can. And finally, we'll add on 1/4 of a cup of freshly grated Parmesan. Now this is optional, you don't have to do this, but I recommend it, it's super good. I just don't recommend the processed Parmesan cheese, it does not taste the same. Now, this step is completely optional and it's not on the recipe on the blog, but you can brush the crust with butter, olive oil, I'm using olive oil, or you can use avocado oil, and then you can add on a little bit of sea salt and garlic powder or fresh garlic, and it adds a crust flavoring. So that's completely up to you if you want to do that. You definitely do not have to, and it's not part of the original recipe. When your pizza comes out of the oven, you're going to want to let it sit on the counter for about 2 to 3 minutes to rest before you cut into it. But when you're ready, you can use a knife, a bench scraper, or a pizza wheel, and we'll just cut it into slices as you desire. Now let's give it a quick try. It is so good. Thanks so much for joining me today in the kitchen. I hope this recipe is a new favorite of yours. It is perfect for celebrations. It's really great for just supper any night of the week. It's so delicious and it's really easy. There's just a few different components and parts because it's all from scratch, but so worth the work. I hope this recipe finds a special place on your table like it has on ours. If you'd like to check out another one of my supper recipes, I'll leave it here or here. Definitely go check that one out as well. It's made completely from scratch. Until next time, go serve God by loving your family one recipe at a time.